Star Wars 7x7, episode 1970. Today, it's a Resistance briefing. We're talking about Rendezvous Point, the 8th episode from Season 2 of Star Wars Resistance. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. So yes, Rendezvous Point is the 8th episode of Season 2 of Star Wars Resistance. This is a full spoiler episode, so if you've not seen this episode and don't want it spoiled for you, then by all means save this for a later date. But if you're okay with dealing with my voice, which is still under repair from the cold and whatnot, and you're okay dealing with the spoilers, then let's just do it. So this episode does feature a lot of notable situations because it involves Tam and the First Order and the possibility that Tam is finally having fully realized second thoughts about her involvement with the First Order. And we also learn a lot about some, resistance background stuff. So why don't we just get into it? I mean, the episode itself is pretty straightforward. The Colossus were dropped in the middle of the action, which is a very classic Star Wars thing to do and always very exciting and fun. But the Colossus is under fire by a Star Destroyer and a bunch of TIE fighters, and the Aces are trying to defend themselves, and Tora says that whoever it is, she's not coming. We don't know whoever it is, but apparently they're there to meet someone at the rendezvous point, and ultimately this person never arrives, and so all the Aces head back in, and the Colossus goes into hyperspace and escapes from the First Order again. Mere seconds later, the person that they were waiting for arrives at the rendezvous point. No! And gets caught in a First Order tractor beam and is taken on the ship. This is a Resistance pilot who seems to be very experienced with dealing with the First Order, and mentions to her droid whether they should play it like they played it on this one place, or whether they should play the situation like back on Bakura, which, for me at least, and I don't know if it's been brought back into the canon officially in other places, but Bakura relates back to an old Legends novel, The Truce at Bakura. It was one of the first dozen or so, I'll say, in the old expanded universe, now Legends. So it's always kind of fun to hear little name checks like that. And it's not the only name check that we get actually in this one. There is also a question of how to escape the First Order Star Destroyer, and the droid mentions something to which our Resistance pilot translates, like the time we escaped from Terex. And Terex is actually not a planet, it's a man. It's Agent Terex of the First Order Security Bureau, and that's a character that was invented in the Star Wars comics, and in particular showed up in the Poe Dameron series. But the real emotional thrust of this episode is that this Resistance pilot is actually Captain Doza's wife, Tora's mother. This is Vanessa Doza, and she's voiced by Tasia Valenza, who has a history with Star Wars. Aside from doing a number of video games, she was also the voice of the Jedi Shaak Ti in the Clone Wars TV series, so a welcome return to Star Wars animation. Anyway, Vanessa is captured by the First Order, and it just so happens that she's being marched to the detention bay while Tam Ryvora and Jace Rucklin, who is voiced by Elijah Wood, are watching, and Tam says, "Is it just me or does she look familiar?" And Jace is like, "If you know her, you have to report her." And Tam says, no. I just, that's weird. Forget I said anything. But she goes to seek out this woman, and it turns out that Vanessa actually recognizes Tam and says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And she says, "They're giving me what I really want." And Vanessa says, "What's that?" And Tam says, and doesn't really say anything. So Vanessa already starts to plant the seeds of doubt about Tam. Well, the seeds were already there, but now is like basically throwing water and fertilizer on them. And we find out from an exchange between Kaz and Yeager that Vanessa was with the rebellion and flew with Yeager way back in the day, and that she is the one who helped Captain Doza defect from the Empire. And the two of them were inseparable until war broke out with the Resistance or actually specifically when General Leia Organa formed the Resistance about 6 years prior to the events of all of this. And Doza wanted no part of it. He just didn't want to get involved in a war again. But Vanessa said, no, if there's going to be trouble, we're going to have to stand up and fight it. And so she joined the Resistance at the start. But back to the events happening now in the episode. Vanisa's droid Torch, her astromech, ends up showing up right when Tam is having this conversation with her at the prison cell, zaps Tam, and they take her prisoner and try to find their way out. They're stopped on the way by Jace Rucklin, who has them at gunpoint, and Vanessa uses Tam as a shield and says, yeah, he's gonna have to shoot you to get me. And he's like, if I have to, which seems like it would be in character with Rucklin, but he also has a bit of a cowardly streak about him and doesn't pull the trigger after all. And Torch is able to put a door between the two of them. The whole "he's not the brightest star in the galaxy, is he?" line from Vanessa is pretty good. Anyway, so they make it to the hangar bay, and ultimately Vanessa leaves Tam with just some thoughts about, like, are you sure you really want to do this? Maybe this is not the right thing or whatever, but yeah, we're out of here. See you later. And sorry, and stuns her. And says, don't be around the hangar when you wake up. But she wakes up in time to see them flying away, and she yells, "No, wait!" And it's really hard to tell what this "no, wait" is about. And this is the crux of what I'm thinking about in regard to Tam and whether she has, finally fallen over the edge and is thinking, oh no, I got to get back to the Resistance. Because the "no, wait" could just be that she has an idea of what they have planned because they have a diversion planned. It could be because she doesn't want them to be killed for whatever reason, or has, information that she can share and that she wants to share, but only if they can take him alive, or that they're leaving without her and she's saying, no, wait, because she wants to go with. It's really hard to tell, but at the moment, at least, it doesn't seem like anyone else heard her. Possibly Agent Tierney did, but it's kind of hard to tell based on the way things were laid out in the action sequence. Anyway, ultimately, what happens when Agent Tierney questions her, she says, hey, they took you as a prisoner. Do you know this Resistance pilot's identity? And Tam says, no, no idea. So she does not give up Doza's wife, Vanessa, excuse me. So she doesn't give her up, and she has to go for debriefing and whatnot, but that also is kind of an indicator that, she's still not fully sided with the First Order, and in fact, she's possibly starting to lean the other direction, which, quite honestly is, I think, where we all are expecting this to go, or where a lot of us are expecting this to go, but that's what we got. So we'll talk about what's coming up in the next month on Star Wars Resistance, because it's actually rather surprising. So I'll get into that right after the break. Stay tuned.
Hey Rebel Rouser, I've made some changes to the asteroid belt level at patreon.com/SW7X7, and they are all with sponsors in mind. So if you want to get the word out about your business, your product, your service to a dedicated Star Wars audience, then please check out patreon.com/SW7X7 and look for the asteroid belt level for details. Again, that's patreon.com/SW7X7.
Welcome back. So it's kind of customary in Star Wars animation to have sort of a mid-season finale and stop around mid-December before resuming in the new year, but that's not going to happen with Star Wars Resistance. In fact, they are going to have episodes every single Sunday in December this year. They're not even taking a hiatus around The Rise of Skywalker, which is rather exciting. So we're going to have Resistance briefings all through December, which is pretty amazing. But for now, that is going to do it for this episode of the show. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.